Welcome to another exciting live stream. I've been traveling last week. I'm excited to be back. Today we are talking about what happens when a city bets billions on projects that might not even survive the decade. That is correct. We are talking about the rise and fall of Charlotte's biggest mega projects because, particularly for a city of its size, Charlotte is spending more on new districts, new stadiums, new projects and trains and transportation than almost any other city. And some of it is already starting to reshape the skyline and is actually happening and is super exciting. But some of it is not going to make it to the finish line, at least as originally laid out. And so we're going to be breaking down in this video the top 5 projects that were booms turned bust and what the projects are going to be instead anyways, because many of these are still happening, just not as they were originally formulated. They're taking new shapes, and some of them are cool, some of them are disappointing, and yeah, I'm excited to share. So we'll go over that, and if you're thinking about moving to Charlotte, these projects could change everything. If depending on, it could change where you want to live and all the implications of that. And if you don't know what to expect coming up, you're going to probably not pick as good of a place to live. So I recommend that you be aware of what's going on. So just to give you a little bit of the backstory, Charlotte loves a mega project, and we have a graveyard of them to prove it. My phone is ringing. My apologies. We have a graveyard of them to prove it, usually starting with a huge announcement, some initial projections, and then all of a sudden everything just dies in quiet. We've seen that with malls, museums, an entire NFL headquarters all falling through. And in each of these instances, somebody promised a big boom, that boom never showed up, and we're counting down to one that actually did change the city forever. And so we will get to that here shortly. There we go. Now my phone's on D&D, so I won't get interrupted again. Now, each of these failures left something behind, and some of these sites are finally starting to be reinvented or reborn in new ways. But in any case, Charlotte has continued to bet big. And actually, we just passed our biggest bet yet that I'll share in a little bit. But the influx of people, we have 157 people a day moving here, and I expect that number to go up when the new research comes out here this next month for the update. Comes out every August. And so it's going to be very exciting to see what some of the new projects are that will be announced later this year. But we're going to talk again about these 5 that were booms, busts, and what they are turning into instead. So starting with number 5, a museum that bet 800,000 people would show up. So Charlotte, where did I put my water? Charlotte built a $160 million shrine to NASCAR, but the crowds that were promised never really came. So back in 2010, city-owned property opened with about $160 million between construction and everything to spin up the facility, $137 million of that in loans. And it was projected that 800,000 people would visit in year 1 and then 400,000 people a year every year after that. And what actually happened instead was it never hit projections. It's averaged about 170,000 people a year, lost about $1 million a year. The CEO overinflated the forecast, and so also the money that they spent to keep it open. And in 2015, the banks forgave about somewhere between $18 and $22 million in debt for a $5 million payment in order to just start to ratchet down their losses. It has stabilized barely. A 2% hotel tax now keeps it afloat. and 201,000 people visited in 2024, which the city still claims about $75 million annual economic impact from that. But that is not what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to do a whole lot more than that. Let's see. I want to learn more about this. Let's double click on this for a moment. How did Charlotte get a NASCAR Hall of Fame museum? Let's do some research. This was back in 2006. This started as well. That's probably part of it. Throwback to the economic crisis. And they dumped another 25 mil into this last year. Good Lord. You know what I find very interesting on all of this? What I find so fascinating is up here in the upper right hand corner, you can see that my email is me@lucasroller.com. Send me a note if you got any questions or video ideas. Appreciate you watching. NASCAR Hall of Fame gears up for $25 million renovation 2026 after city approval. Getting $25 million tune-up. City Council this week approved funding for the improvements of the Uptown Museum. The money will come from a portion of existing revenue generated through a 2% tax on hotel rooms dedicated to repaying and maintaining the city-owned Hall of Fame complex. The complex, consisting of a 150,000 square foot NASCAR museum, 40,000 square foot convention ballroom and parking deck, opened in 2010. Adjusted for inflation, construction cost was $295 million. This is the first time there will be any major improvement or enhancement since it opened. Malcolm Graham said just before the vote. Obviously, there is very much work that needs to be done. Planned improvements include NASCAR TV and video production space in the Hall of Fame building for use as part of the museum, expanding education space for visiting school groups and summer camps, updating STEM-themed learning areas. Big fan of that. Shout out, for those of you who don't know, I went to Purdue, Boiler Up. Boiler Up, hammer down. And got a degree in robotics engineering and competitive robotics in high school. STEM-themed learning areas. Shout out was how I ended up getting my degree, or going down that path. And then deciding to make the next logical decision, which was to go into real estate. Actually, it was because my job was 100% travel. It sent me to Charlotte. I fell in love with Charlotte and decided to stay here, make it home, and now I help other people make it home. So that is 1 minute you're building robots, the next you're helping people build a city. Increasing scholarship capacity, adding space for private events, improving acoustics to avoid overlapping sound when hosting multiple events, redesigning entry and lobby areas, and expanding the gift shop and new space visible from the exterior. Project's anticipated completion date's 2027, so it's a relatively small project. Council approved $1.3 million to repay design and development costs for the Hall of Fame renovation. When the Hall of Fame opened, Visitors Authority executives, who have since left, projected annual attendance of 800,000 in the first year. Actual attendance was 278,000. The Hall of Fame did not track 200,000 visitors again until fiscal 2024. Just over 200,000 guests visited the NASCAR Museum in fiscal 2025 too. According to the Visitors Authority, 65% of Hall of Fame attendees spend the night in Charlotte. Direct spending by Hall of Fame visitors, including hotels, meals, and other expenses, totaled $43.1 million, according to an internal study. Revenues $11 million annually. Visitors corporate and convention-related private events. Those moves stabilized the Hall of Fame. Museums education programs serve 21,000 students per year. Honestly, I would agree. Maybe I'm biased, not huge on NASCAR, not, I don't dislike it, just not huge. And like I've lived here for almost 5 years. I've never once been like, I really need to go to the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Existing hotel tax dedicated to the Hall of Fame complex expires in 2039. The $25 million will be repaid by then, city administrators said. Ed Driggs, a former financial services executive in Lawana Mayfield, a member of the Hall of Fame's advisory board for the past 7 years, told colleagues at the meeting that they were confident in the structure of the renovation funding. The board has been very fiscally conservative over a number of years. I completely support us moving forward, Mayfield added. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, we could continue on that. I don't think it's super necessary. We'll keep moving. Number 4. So, the fifth failure again was a museum that couldn't fill seats. Number 4 was a club that couldn't keep the party going. So the hottest nightlife complex went bankrupt twice here in Charlotte. And so what was it? If you have been from Charlotte, been to Charlotte, or if you are from Charlotte, you've been to Charlotte, especially more than 10 years ago, you probably know what I'm about to be sharing. It was developed by, I'm going to butcher this name, Afshin Ghazi, that raised the old Charlotte Convention Center to build this complex that opened in 2008. It had bars, clubs, and restaurants stacked in the heart of Uptown, and it was the place to be. I hear stories about this all the time, and I bet it was really cool. I've been there a few times. There's not really much of anything going on now. It's still technically there, but it's struggling. And that is, of course, the epicenter. Charlotte epicenter. Let's see if I can get a good photo of it. So it's now the Queen City Quarter. Interesting. Mixed-use development with an open-air shopping center, office, hotels, located in Uptown Charlotte. It was developed by the Ghazi Company. In 1995, the Charlotte Convention Center relocated a few blocks south of its former location. The original convention center closed shortly after and was placed for sale. The building was on the market until the Ghazi Company purchased the 3.2-acre site in 2004 for $14.5 million. Even without knowing anything else, they overpaid. They're like, whatever. Let's adjust that. What is $14.5 million adjusted for inflation from 2004 to 2026? Yeah, 26 million in Charlotte, in 2004 Charlotte, mind you, is insane. Because they're getting 3 acres. They didn't even have clear dirt. They had to clear the dirt. That's insane. 73 structure was imploded in mid-2005 and construction on the epicenter began soon afterwards. The location was speculation around the blue rail, the blue line light rail. That's interesting. That was definitely part of why this was a very speculative investment. Location was central to a rapidly transforming area of Uptown Charlotte, with the Charlotte Area Transit, so CATS, as we call it, constructing the blue line. A new Ritz-Carlton hotel and the Spectrum Center was being constructed on the next block. The project went through various design changes to include an aloft hotel and a direct connection to the adjoining light rail station. The project was originally set to include a 52-story residential tower located atop the retail buildings to open in 2009. The complex is connected via Sky Bridge to the Overstreet Mall and the Omni Hotel Charlotte. The main entrance to Epicenter is along College Street, where valets will be stationed to handle parking. Their garage is absolutely awful. Terrible design. The design was criticized by urban planners due to the facade of blank walls that face the streets, auto-dependent design reminiscent of a suburban mall, and separation from the adjacent light rail stop and sidewalks. Contractors and lenders sued the developers and each other over building permits, condominium rights, and financial issues before the complex opened. So it's just basically one giant cluster and a whole bunch of greedy people and poor design. Original tenants include Whiskey River, Smoothie King, Five Guys, Brugger's Bagels, The Fudgery, Cantina Laredo, Fleming's Prime Steakhouse and Wine Bar, Bella Vista Restaurant and Lounge, Flying Biscuit, Shane's Rib Shack, The Rooftop Terrace Suite, Blackfin Restaurant and Saloon, Hal at the Moon, Cold Stone, Studio Movie Grill, and PJ's Coffee and Wine Bar. The venue also includes a bowling alley and a 175-room aloft hotel above a portion of the one of the retail buildings. So I'm just going to call out immediately for this sort of like a destination thing. It's one thing to have a handful of chain tenants in there, both for stability and also for because there will be some people that will visit the chain specifically for the chain. But when you get too many, it no longer becomes like a cool place to go. And very specifically, when you get so many in there that it just becomes basically like a suburban strip mall, it's just kind of a money grab because that is very good for the commercial valuation, because you have like those leases are very, very valuable because commercial real estate is valued based off of the leases and the tenants that you have in there. So if you can get a bunch of national A-list tenants, it's very good for the value of your commercial real estate in the short term. It does not, however, necessarily promote longevity of the entire property. Yeah, I can keep riffing on that, but that's interesting. Let's see. Numerous events were canceled. Uptown protests. Complex turned into a temporary fan venue for 2019 NBA All-Star. Security manager was stabbed at the Sweet nightclub located in the complex. Same day, an argument began inside a restaurant at the Epicenter and continued out into the street in front of the complex where a man was shot. 2019 fight at the Epicenter, which produced a stray bullet that struck and killed Maryland resident John Holliday, the 74-year-old CEO of a drug disposal company visiting the city. Following the media coverage of the death, among other crimes reported in the complex, business began relocating from the complex. Entire third floor of the complex was closed to visitors. It was in need of renovation as building conditions began deteriorating and walkable pathways were becoming broken. By the end of 2019, the Epicenter was 78% leased. Yeah, that's kind of like maybe not literally physically imploding, but the valuation is literally imploding or imploded. CBRE owners of the complex announced its names would be changed to Queen City Quarter. Additionally, it was announced that repairs would be made, including maintenance to the courtyard, parking garage, patios, and roof, expected to be completed by the end of the year. Developers also detail in the announcement that all public staircases and escalators will be renovated, along with new landscaping, lighting, and benches. This sounds like CBRE just has it on their books and they just don't know what to do to get rid of it. There was also there were several other safety issues. There, like 1,100 spaces of underground parking is nuts. That's just nuts. And it's impossible to get in and out. You just sit down there. It's honestly awful. Whenever I've only been like twice. So there were some other issues with people getting drugged and things there. Yeah, just not quite a good vibe. So, where was it? Oh yeah, so it opened right at the beginning of the Great Recession and was already bankrupted for the first time by 2010 to 2012. And also, it's just like it wasn't that cool. So it was built like a suburban mall, and this was very much like a speculative build or investment um, by the Ghazi company that was intending to capitalize on the light rail being built because Uptown was already, had high rises and was already uptown. However, South End, because it was much less expensive, rapidly changed and stole a lot of the nightlife. And then from the series of events, like the violence in 2019, compounded then with COVID emptying it, absolutely crushed it for the second time, and then it defaulted on an $85 million loan, which then foreclosed on it, auctioned it off in 2022, which I believe was then when CBRE purchased it. And so, I mean, you still got close to 4 acres in the middle of Uptown. So at the end of the day, I'm sitting funny on my wallet. At the end of the day, it still is very much like a central prime location, but there are just some really, really critical design flaws that make it very difficult. And, right address, wrong design. A reboot could work, but at least as of right now, it has very little space that is leased out. And that party is dead for the current foreseeable future. However, we will see what may change in the future. Now, we're counting down again from number 5, so now we're down to number 3. This just quietly died on the east side and then sat empty for over a decade. So Eastland Mall was one of the fanciest malls in the region, and it sat just dead in place for about 10 years. So it opened back in 1975, 1 million square feet indoors, 4 anchor tenants, a beloved ice rink, and it was the heart of East Charlotte for about 2 decades. But not for forever. So what killed it? Well, there was a slew, again, of rising crime issues, anchor closures from the mid-90s. And the last anchor, Sears Roebuck, yes, from way back in the day, got crushed through the financial crisis and was gone in 2009, forcing the mall to close overall by 2010. The city bought 80 acres for about $13 million in 2012, demolished it in 2013, and then we had a decade of dead-end ideas, people floating around, talking about like a film studio, maybe some sort of a indoor ski slope, a wave pool, all kinds of stuff, and nothing really moved. However, recently if you don't follow me on Instagram, add me on Instagram because I made a video about this that is coming very soon. Wait, let me see. You can follow me on Instagram at Lucas Roller where I cover this specific thing, but it's finally coming back. The new Eastland Yards project, which is a $97 million mixed-use community, plus a 4.5-acre park, will be opening in 2027. And I actually, while I was there, saw people moving into the very first apartments. There's also a couple of wings of Saucy Burbank homes over there as well, which, if you're not familiar, are some beautiful builds. Let me pull up the map. So Eastland Yards is right here, right over kind of by Central Avenue and 27. And there's a gelato place, a coffee place, and I think it was a hair salon, a couple other things already going in there that are opening this fall or in the spring. And then, of course, the Saucy Burbank homes as well. Everybody asks, yes, I can help with new construction. Reach out to me before you reach out to the builder, because when you reach out to the builder, there are certain things that you are unable to renegotiate. Let's see. I have to go back out there and get some video of it, because I just popped in just to walk the floor plans. They're nice. They're not like they're not super fancy. They're not super overpriced. A lot of actually, let me just log into MLS and I'll just show you if you're curious about this. If you're not curious, skip ahead in the video. But unless you're watching live. But the homes that they're building over there, I thought were pretty cool. Here we go. Oh my God, there we go. So the Eastland Yards. So we're going to search for just new construction. Central and 27. Here we are. It's mostly townhomes. There's some single family. They just got streetlights in as well. It looks really pretty, especially at night. So this one here is a single family. So this is an arts and crafts style elevation. Elevation meaning the front of the home. Arts and crafts being like the architectural style. 5.5. There are some things we can do with rate incentives, closing costs, that sort of thing. But yeah, so 5.5 for that one. They're all give or take about 2,000 square feet. I think the smallest being just barely under 2,000 and the largest being like 2,200. So it's not a huge difference in size. This one's 463, one of the townhomes. And again, there's some really cute options there. Really nice finish out, trim out on the inside. Not a huge fan of a 3-story, but when you're looking at townhomes these days, you kind of have to. They do have 2-car garages, so pretty cool. But yeah, so the Evoke is let's see. Oh yeah, and also the sports campus. Can't forget about the sports campus. So Eastland Sports Campus will have indoor and outdoor facilities. The outdoor complex will include 6 full-size, multi-purpose athletic fields with a strong emphasis on soccer programming through a premier local soccer partner, while remaining flexible for other athletic uses and event conversions. The campus will also include walking bike paths and expansive green space. Interestingly, I have already seen people that have, kids that are in competitive soccer that are moving to Charlotte specifically because of, ever since we got FC Charlotte, I'm not sure what league it is, but it's professional soccer. It has become hugely popular, and a lot of soccer related athletic stuff has sprung up in Charlotte as a result. Like a lot of very positive secondary impacts have occurred. ESC was approved by the City Council in September 2023, and is seen as a new hub for youth and amateur sports in Charlotte and an economic driver for the region. ESC team includes Edge Sports Global, Charlotte Soccer Academy, and Bolton, Ivory, and Canty LLC. It's expected to open in late 2028. ESC estimates the project will generate an annual economic impact of 169 million, nice, and create more than 500 jobs. Evoke Living is a 72-unit apartment building that's going to offer affordable housing for those 55 and older. Solstice is going to be a 274-unit apartment complex that has retail on the lower level. The first residents began moving in February. 4.5-acre county park in addition to the Eastland Sports Campus. Let's see what else we got. Crossland Southeast has been selected to serve as the master developer on the proposed mixed-use redevelopment. HOA and community amenities. It is not, yeah, that's correct. It's not one HOA community because it's a master development. For most of what's been built so far, there's no HOA at all. Evoke is 55 plus affordable senior apartments. Solstice at Eastland Yards, Margaret Rate Apartments managed by Greystar. Leased rental communities. Saucy Burbank, single family and townhome community, new enough that the first homes only went in on the market in May 2025. Homeowners Association with published dues hasn't been widely reported yet. I will say also, I do know from my own market research that, this is not indicative of the project. This is more just broadly the market as a whole. So Central Village has been selling slower than originally intended. And so there is some great negotiability that can be had, potentially. Give me a call and we'll figure out what we can work out. This is all just AI garbage for the most part. Edge Sports Global, BIC, and Charlotte Soccer Academy won approval from City Council for ground leases at Eastland Yards Sports Campus project. During its May 26th meeting, the council unanimously approved a 50-year ground lease for 17.72 acres to Charlotte Soccer Academy and a 50-year ground lease for 8.14 acres to Edge Sports Global and BIC. Each ground lease includes the option to renew for a 25-year period with a base rent rate of $1 per year, according to city documents. The city government's committed $30 million to support construction and site improvements. Council approved the $30 million in summer of 2023. Soccer fields will take about 8 months to build and will open first. The indoor facility will take 12 to 14 months with full delivery in 2028. Todd DeLong, the city's assistant director of economic development, said the changes allow the project partners to remain competitive in attracting the right type of commercial tenants as residential and commercial markets soften. So basically, being able to help subsidize the indirectly subsidize the leases for grade A tenants, like because that's where I think the Wegmans is going in, if I remember correctly. Talked about grocery stores, talked about other types of assets and amenities for the community. This was the main driver. This helps us maintain that position by not extending. It puts us in a worse position of trying to keep that momentum going of what's already occurring on the site right now. Um, yeah, there's not a whole lot of news on this. In January, City Council approved leases for 4 retail tenants at the site. Rumbau Latin Dance Co. is leasing 3,200 square feet. Alvarenga Realty for a salon suite. Artisan Gelato and Higher Grounds by Manolo, both concepts from Manolo Bakery owner Manolo Bentancur. I don't know how to say that. Will each lease 1,000 square feet. I personally love some gelato. Sign me up. And I also love some coffee, so sign me up for that as well. Let's see. The park is under construction currently. All right. That was number 3. Oh, I was going to also just real quick touch to jump backwards a little bit. Where was I? I was going to touch on the Eastland. So there's some really interesting stuff I found on Eastland Mall. So this is what it looked like back in the heyday. Um, Wait, not what I wanted. There we go. Before World War II, there was no significant suburban shopping centers in Charlotte. The expansion of roads and dominance of the automobile as a transportation choice after the war led to several small-scale shopping centers, the largest of which was the Sedgefield Center off of South Boulevard. It opened in 1950 and featured a dozen stores and several medical offices, but most shopping still occurred in Uptown, centered on Trade and Tryon streets. This pattern did not change until after 1954 when the U.S. Congress approved a change in tax laws to allow for accelerated depreciation. This allowed a building's owner to deduct most of the value of the building from their income taxes in as little as 7 years. And accelerated depreciation changed the world of commercial real estate and led to an explosion of commercial development. As a result, large shopping centers sprang up across the nation because essentially just made it a lot cheaper to profitably build, own, and operate, the newest and coolest places that people would want to go and shop and that sort of thing. Nationwide trend of the rapid development, and this was Charlottetown Mall back in 1961. It's really cool too with all the fountains and everything. Charlottetown Mall opened near downtown in 1959 as the first fully enclosed shopping mall in the South. 6 miles away in South Charlotte, the South Park Mall opened on 100 acres of farmland in 1970. Which also just to put it's not that long ago. This is like 50 years ago. Put this in perspective. We're talking about South Park as being farmland. South Park as being farmland, right? And now we go, really anywhere here. This is South Park Mall. Let's see, where's it good? Yeah. Because this was farmland. It's just crazy. This was all farmland like 50 years ago. That's crazy. Um, Back to what we were talking about. Opening of South Park posed a significant threat to Charlotte's accepted shopping practices and resulted in a 25% drop in sales during the first year at the downtown stores that lined Trade and Tryon Streets, the city's traditional shopping district. Planning for Eastland started in 1969. The project was developed by Maston Faison Weatherspoon Realty Company and the New L Development Company, a family partnership headed by Charlottean C. Morris Newell. Weatherspoon and Faison were the firm's shopping center developers. Faison was a 1956 Davidson College graduate who turned to the real estate profession in 1962 after failing as a boat builder. Van Witherspoon attended UNC on a football scholarship and graduated in 1954 with a business degree. As South Park Mall, which was built by the Belk and Ives companies, near completion in 1969, Faison pushed to develop another large mall in Charlotte. The firm had experience developing the Cotswold and Freedom Drive shopping centers in Charlotte, and Faison narrowed his search to 3 suburban locations: Freedom Drive and I-85, Idlewild and Independence Boulevard, and the Central Avenue site. He decided that Freedom Drive was too far out and the Independence and Idlewild site lacked good access. Let's see, Freedom Drive and I-85. Let's look at that real quick. I'm curious. Freedom Drive and I-85. I can only imagine what this would look like if they had chosen this spot. It looks very different. I drive this every day. Just about. Which there's some stuff over here, but it's actually starting to develop pretty quickly, interestingly. Like within the last year. That's one of the things I've seen is like this is all cleared and getting prepped for permitting. There were a lot of homes that are newer along there and also back in these neighborhoods. We've seen quite a bit of development through this area. But I digress. So we got that. Idlewild and Independence Boulevard. Where's Idlewild? Am I getting it? No, that's Albemarle. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it is. It is 74. Oh, it's Andrew Jackson Highway turns into Independence. Okay. Before we get the 74 bypass. Okay, so where's Idlewild then? Idlewild. Idlewild Boulevard. Or is it road? They don't intersect. Is there an old Idlewild? Oh, wait. It's over here. Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, that would be so far out back in the day. So they were looking right here, which this is to this day kind of shopping. Got a Ford dealership. The problem also, because the plans for this highway were to be, large divided highway. Because of that, it was probably also a smart decision because it would have been somewhat easy to get to there, but it would have been like even if you were all on one side of the street, it would have been a nightmare for many people trying to get in and get out, I think. Um, and also that's even further out than Freedom and 85 if you're measuring it, versus Uptown. Um, and then the actual site, which the actual site is, so again, they were looking right there, they were looking right there, and then they were also looking right here. And they decided to go with this one. In 1972, the then undeveloped 84-acre Eastland Mall site was zoned for apartments, office, and business use. For the project to move forward, they had to apply to the Charlotte Meck Planning Commission for zoning changes that would allow for a 1 million square foot mall. The commission staff recommended that the rezoning petition be denied. They believed a mall in that location could result in severe traffic problems. The developers hired traffic consultants who argued that future road widening would accommodate the traffic. The Planning Commission was convinced, went against staff's recommendations, and voted unanimously to approve the rezoning. The Board of County Commission followed suit and also approved the rezoning unanimously. In March of 73, John Belk, at the time mayor of Charlotte and president of Belk Department Stores, expressed his confidence in the Eastland Mall project, but doubted if it would be completed before 76. Land clearing of the site began in April of 73, and around this time, they formed Eastland Limited with Morris Newell and acquired the mall property from the New L Development Company. They hired Alfred Cloak of Katzman and Cloak Associates of New York to design the mall and retained Little and Associates to manage the project. David Jones Construction Company of Raleigh was chosen to the GC. Engineer Coy Shields BE joined Eastland Ltd. to supervise the massive construction project. It's pretty cool with these photos. Like, that's beautiful. Alfred Cloak was responsible for Eastland Mall's elaborate and futuristic design. Most of the eye-catching interior design elements were concentrated around the ice rink in the center of the mall. Mall corridors turned into tiered balconies over the ice and dipped and projected to afford good views and seating. That's also really cool. Especially for the time. I bet this was just like the coolest thing ever. The heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system required 78,500 pounds of sheet metal to form the square ductwork, in addition to over 2 miles of prefabricated round pipe ductwork. 3.5 miles of chiller pipe, located in massive cooling units on the mall's roof, were used to meet the air conditioning demands. The ice rinks required special ventilation with a layer of 70-degree air at shoulder height designed to keep cool, moist air from rising and condensing on the huge skylights in the ceiling, 50 feet above the air, or above the ice. Cost $25 million to construct and involved approximately 60 construction firms. That's crazy. The Monday night before Eastland Mall opened, the developers hosted a private party and tour of the building. When the guests left, Faison and Weatherspoon, the two men who essentially made the mall, spent the night shoveling dirt and cleaning up the parking lot. This last-minute chore is emblematic of how hard Faison and Weatherspoon had worked to make the multi-million-dollar mall happen, and Eastland had not been their only project. By 1975, the two, along with Maston, had been involved in developing or leasing 39 shopping center projects in the South, including the 1.2 million square foot Cross Creek Mall in Fayetteville. When Eastland Mall opened at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, July 30th, 1975, it was front page news. Hours before it opened, a steady stream of cars filled with shoppers and sightseers streamed into the new 5700 space parking lot. Early arrivals in the crowd were given bright colored balloons, someone handed out free flowers, and others distributed lollipops and free food. It could have been a rock festival. That sounds like this is written by somebody that was actually there. But it was the opening of Eastland Mall, Charlotte's newest and fanciest shopping center, and in shopping center Crazy Charlotte, the event was something like a Woodstock for the suburban set. It's more than just a place to shop, it's entertainment, said Mrs. Bertie Ashby of Charlotte. There's a lot of culture here. The top architects in the country must have designed all of this, she said, motioning to splashing fountains and shining chandeliers. This is a work of art. Very cool. The entertainment center within the mall features an Ice Capades Chalet and the only three auditorium theater in North Carolina, Gourmet Gardens featuring 13 specialized food service restaurants, 4 mini parks within the mall, each with its own skylight, benches, and lush planting give a relaxing atmosphere. These parks feature 30-foot high tropical trees and 2 beautiful fountains. One of the things I feel like, especially like, because I grew up right between millennial and Gen Z, um, or as some of the cool kids call us, the Zillennial generation. You really did have to like go around to find stuff if you were going to be shopping for things back in the day, because like now you just Amazon stuff. Like I need something oddly specific and a perfect color to match whatever. Like I went to a wedding this last weekend. I had to get a belt that matched my I forgot to pack, call me bougie, but it's the correct way to do things, and you should hire me as your realtor because I do everything the correct way. I only packed this watch and this bracelet. I don't know what you really call it, but I only packed these, and they're in gold, right? So to get a belt that would match, I needed a gold belt that was the exact same gold. I hit like 4 stores, could not find what I was looking for. I've looked on Amazon, found the exact match to both of these in like 10 minutes, delivered to my door the next day, right? But back in the 70s when this opened, this was so cool because again, there was 40 new stores that nobody had ever seen before. It was a very cool place to be just in general. And you could do, again, where was it? It said somewhere in here, twice the shopping with half the walking. That's pretty cool, let alone half the driving, half the time, half the everything. So this was particularly back in the 70s, very much like the Amazon of the day. Um, where is it? They were joined by Chamber of Commerce President Don Bryant, who declared this is a prime example of the American economic system at its best. As Belkin haircut the ribbon, Reverend John L. Newton prayed that the mall would help to overthrow the tyranny of economic want. It is estimated that between 60 and 70,000 people visited the mall that day. The opening of Eastland Mall was a significant event for Charlotte in the mid-70s. Despite the fact that it was not Charlotte's first mall, Eastland represented something new. It definitely marketed itself as something new. Eastland Mall, a bright new day in shopping and entertainment. There's something new under the sun. Eastland. It's 2-level, fully climatized, I think air conditioning, Mall brings together a marvelous blend of 105 stores to serve you and your family, including Belk, Ivy's, and J.C. Penney. But that's just the beginning. It's a place to enjoy all day long, not only exploring the shops, but discovering such spectacular entertainment as the huge indoor ice rink as well. And there's a new dining experience around every corner. The beautiful courts are green with lush plantings and offer a relaxing place to rest or meet a friend. And Eastland is truly the dawn of a new day in central shopping pleasure and convenience, and every inch of it was planned with you in mind. The years leading up to the opening of Eastland Mall have been tumultuous for the U.S. The 1973 OPEC oil crisis shook the nation's economy significantly for the first time since World War II and began a significant recession that lasted until 75. Honestly, that's also something to really think about. It was ballsy to be doing this at the when you look at it in the context of what was going on in the nation at that time, because this opened right at the end, so it was being developed and planned and advocated for through this massive recession and the war in Vietnam. Um, with these national troubles in the recent past, Charlotte was looking to the future, a very bright future. The old Charlotte was gone. Long considered a textile manufacturing town, the last fully functioning textile mill in Charlotte, the Highland Mill, closed in 75. That really is freaking cool. And I feel like also I love reading these sort of things to really get context on what this was and really understand the historical significance of it. Um, there's there's a lot going on that was real negative in the world, in the country, in the region. And so to have something new and exciting like this open up was really kind of a beacon of opportunity for the entire region at the time. And also just, it was exciting. Actually, here, Pat Richardson visited the mall the week it opened. It was so new, exciting, and different. South Park was only one level and didn't have a food court. For a teenager, Eastland was a dream come true. He recalls that his cousins who lived near South Park would come cross town to visit the newer, hipper mall. In 1988, Belk embarked on a renovation of their Eastland Mall store, in contrast to a recently completed glitzy renovation of the South Park Belk store. The Eastland remodeling was more modest. This business decision by Belk was a reflection of the demographic changes that were taking place around Eastland Mall. The more affluent people tended to leave the area, and the less affluent people moved into the area. It is probable that the congestion associated with the development of Eastland Mall contributed to this trend. This demographic shift was accompanied by an increase in residential rental properties in East Charlotte, as described in a report by the UNC Charlotte Urban Institute. As people passed away or moved out, many of the properties became rentals, she said. Many of those became permanent rentals, often used for Section 8 subsidized housing, a federal program that gives rent vouchers to low income families. This has led to destabilization of our neighborhoods, Lindsay said. Many landlords have not maintained their properties or invested in a needed upkeep, and some will only rent to those with Section 8 vouchers because they guarantee income. There have been negative impacts on nearby shopping centers. In areas with large pockets of low-income residents, there is not enough disposable income to support commercial development, and the neighborhood suffers. Interesting take. Faison Associates sold the mall to Eastland Mall Associates LP, which was owned by two pension funds, but Faison and Associates continued to handle the leasing and management of the property. In 1990, South Park expanded 1.3 million square feet to become larger than Eastland and was positioned in southeast Charlotte to attract higher income shoppers from its more affluent surrounding neighborhoods. More competition for Eastland lay on the horizon, with the Carolina Place Mall in Pineville set to open in 1991. But despite these challenges, sales at Eastland remained strong, continually beating projections and remained 100% leased. Eastland held a 15th anniversary celebration in August of 1990, which coincided with a $5 million renovation of the mall. While Eastland may have no longer been the premier shopping destination in Charlotte, it was still very successful. Problems with crime began to affect the mall as early as 1992. A lawsuit filed by mall tenant claimed that beginning 92 and continuing thereafter, numerous criminal incidents at Eastland Mall occurred, and the generally unacceptable behavior of people at the mall was allowed to exist and grow by the owner. The suit claimed that the tenant's sales fell 40% because of an impression in the community that the mall was a dangerous place. Police reports showed that 1,728 crimes were reported in Eastland from January 95 to 97, March of 97, which is 52% more crime than was reported at South Park Mall for the same period. Around the beginning of 97, Realty Trust purchased the mall from Eastland Mall Associates LP for $54 million. Glimcher had some initial success with new tenants and increased security, but the mall could not weather the increased completion that occurred with opening of the 1.4 million square foot Concord Mills Mall in 99, just north of Charlotte on Interstate 85. After a disappointing 99 holiday season, Wendy Parks, the manager of Eastland's new Aeropostale clothing store, stated, "The mall wasn't very busy." Soon came the opening of the North Lake Mall near Huntersville in 2002. The openings of Walmart and Target stores on Albemarle Road around the same time also hurt the mall's business. J.C. Penney, one of the mall's 4 anchor stores, closed in 2002. That same year, Belk began to consider moving its Eastland store to another East Charlotte location. John Belk, chairman of the department store chain and former mayor who cut the ribbon in 75 to open the mall, stated, "The culture and the demographics have changed since we opened there. Eastland is going down." In 2006, Belk announced they would close the Eastland Mall location. In 2007, the mall was in decline, and its decline affecting a greater area of East Charlotte. The city council asked the Washington-based Urban Land Institute to look at the problem. The institute recommended that the mall be demolished. In 2008, Dillard's announced it would close, and in 2009, Sears, the last of the longtime anchors, closed their Eastland store. Without another store, or without anchor stores, the business withered and the nearly empty mall closed on June 30th, 2010. Put them all up for sale in 2005, 2008. Glimcher defaulted on their $42 million mortgage. Around that time, the mall closed. Boxer Properties of Texas bought the principal section of the mall, not the 4 anchor store sites, for $2 million, with plans to redevelop the mall. Nothing came of it, and in July 2012, the city council voted to buy the entire mall, including the anchor stores, for $13 million. In May of 2013, the city council voted to demolish the mall to allow for new development of the site. Development is expected to begin in late 2013. And did not occur until now. Very interesting. So this is a relatively old article. Fascinating. So for a variety of reasons, that was the rise and fall of Eastland Mall. But it is now being reborn as Eastland Yards. However, we're 543-2 down to number 2, which was I don't even know if it was bulldozed. I think it's just started, never finished. So David Tepper promised an $800 million Panthers headquarters, and it all fell apart. So in 2019, the $800 million HQ, which included a practice facility and hotels near Rock Hill, South Carolina, the site down there was selected because Rock Hill made a lot of promises. South Carolina recruited it very hard, and they were really looking for a regional tourism boom. That said, however, and I have been tracking this for many years, because actually one of my clients when I first moved here was an engineer on the project. Um, the entire thing just imploded. So construction halted in March of 22 and was completely canceled April of 2022 when GT Real Estate filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy in June, and was followed by them filing for bankruptcy in June of 2022. There was a $100 million plus settlement, $60 million going to contractors, 21 million against York County, 20 million against Rock Hill. The steel shell, I guess, that they had started was demolished in February of 2023, and Rock Hill kept the land. The city owns the 240-acre site and the road interchange and is still hunting a developer to bring jobs. Basically, Rock Hill made a bunch of promises around. Let's find the Business Journal articles to really set the stage for this. But yeah, they promised everything. They promised a bunch of subsidies and other things. They didn't have the money. They didn't tell anybody. And then they just pretended it was not a thing. And then they were like, sue us. Or find somebody else to put up the money. So one of the ballsiest ways to screw developers, I'll say that much. Rock Hill, South Carolina. Here we go. Following financial dispute between team owner David Tepper and local officials, the abandoned site has been demolished, and the property rebranded as the Palmetto Research Park. Following the collapse of the $800 million NFL project, the incomplete steel structures and foundational elements were entirely demolished by blasting crews in 2023. City of Rock Hill officially took control of the land as part of the $100 million bankruptcy settlement and is actively redeveloping the 200-plus acre property adjacent to I-77.
After years of failed plans, new life coming to the failed Panthers practice facility down in York County. Today, Rock Hill City leaders approved a sale with Novant Health to develop a medical campus there. The investment, estimated at over $300 million, is expected to bring more than 250 full-time jobs. As you know, this site has been in a lot of headlines after it was supposed to be the Panthers headquarters. But Tepper Sports and Entertainment pulled out of the project in 2022, creating a lot of back and forth between the team, the city, and York County. Now the plot is owned by the city of Rock Hill and was rebranded as Palmetto Research Park. This Novant purchase is set to develop 25 acres of the 209-acre site.
This space is head and shoulders above any other space on the eastern seaboard in a lot of ways.
The deal could close by October following a due diligence period.
I can think of a couple places on the eastern seaboard that might be better. Let's see. Let's go back to this prolonged dispute. Let's see if we can get some clarity on this. More than 2 years after the Carolina Panthers plan to build a practice facility and headquarters collapsed and dissolved into a legal battle, the South Carolina Attorney General's office states there will be no criminal charges in the case. The AG's office announced its decision in a letter sent to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division on September 16th, 2024. Stating that criminal charges are not warranted and there is no criminal intent from anyone involved in the failure of the project. York County and the city of Rock Hill awarded millions of dollars to Panther owner David Tepper's company, GT Real Estate, to build an $800 million modern state-of-the-art practice facility and team headquarters in the area, but those plans were scrapped and construction was halted in April of 2022. Also important to note here, for whatever reason, because it is the Charlotte, and Charlotte is a city in North Carolina, not South Carolina. It is the Charlotte Panthers. There is a very strong feeling by a large percentage of the team's fan base that the entire team should live and operate in North Carolina and specifically not South Carolina. The team wanted to, I think, try to expand their roots in South Carolina to get more fans and whatnot. And so going to Rock Hill seemed like maybe a way to do that. And there were so many people that were absolutely pissed because they were like, no, if South Carolina wants a team, they can go get their own team because it is the Charlotte, North Carolina Panthers, not anything else. I also see on the comments here, I don't know how you say that name, but Tavazik Zivak. How did YouTube think I should watch this 16 minutes ago? Because they know you better than you know yourself. Let's see. Joint statement from inquiry into the transfer of and use of public money by Carolina Panthers owner David Tepper and his real estate company. Since then, they filed for bankruptcy and reached settlements with York County and Rock Hill governments in December 2022. The letter specifically focused on ways in which York County was potentially harmed by the failed project, not Rock Hill. Investigation reveals no criminal intent on the part of anyone involved in the failure of the project and the $21 million in tax funds for the Mount Gallant roadway. While York County filed a lawsuit in 2022 claiming GT Real Estate and Tepper defendants misappropriated the penny tax funds to purposes other than the Mount Gallant project, the auditors in the AG's office found no evidence that any roadway tax money was misappropriated for personal or other improper use. The complexity of these interrelated agreements and the reasonable but differing positions that can be taken as to the effect of certain contractual language, the reliance of GTRE and related entities, and the lack of misappropriation or theft of any funds all weigh against the existence of any criminal culpability. Here's what the AI summary will pull up. Why did the Rock Hill Panthers facility fall apart in March of 2022? I want to make sure I have my facts straight here. Carolina Panthers halted construction on the Rock Hill facility in March of 2022 due to a financial dispute involving unissued public bonds and unmet funding obligations. This is what I'm looking for. Good Lord. We're going to have to allow ads. I guess we're going to have to allow ads. Rock Hill Mayor John Geddes wrote a letter in 2018. No one knew it then, but the letter was the start of what would be perceived as the city's biggest success and ultimately unravel into its biggest failure. There are a few places in the country that have as high of a reputation for competition and sport as Rock Hill. Tepper had purchased the Charlotte-based team for $2.275 billion, the highest sale price in NFL history, and at the time tossed around for the idea of moving the Panthers to training facilities. York County joined in. Panthers met regularly with local and state officials and South Carolina legislators and government, or not government, good Lord, long day. Governor Henry McMaster discussed tax incentives. Then, as fast as the idea came together, it fell apart, and who's at fault remains unanswered. The site was predicted to be more than a headquarters and practice facility. Dubbed the Rock, the site would include almost 4 million square feet of development. Design plans showed a 500-seat indoor practice field with 80-foot tall sliding glass doors that connected indoor and outdoor fields. A small stadium would house events with 5,000 to 20,000 fans and not just for football. Hotels, restaurants, corporate headquarters, and other development would come. An advanced medical facility with world-class sports medicine options was part of the vision. Um, and then Geddes is pointing fingers. What we're going to see, according to the Panthers division, is development for all this stuff. However, professional teams have long wielded similar promises. Oh, wait, no, it's the author. Let's see. Andrew Zimbalist. Similar promises associated with new sports facilities, especially those that get public support. The promises include jobs, new spending, tourist attractions, and economic expansion. And more often than not, those promises are empty, he said. Practice facility in and of itself should not be expected to have any impact whatsoever. There's no revenue per. Still, NFL teams are lucrative ventures and do impact businesses around them. Teams are worth billions. Panthers' new practice facility would have been particularly unique because it involved two states. To the extent you can move activity, generates revenue from North Carolina to South Carolina. Other things being equal, that would have had a beneficial effect on the South Carolina economy. Usually that's not what happens. You're moving your practice facility 500 yards away or 2 or 3 miles away. If the plan was to move a large number of the team's employees to the planned Rock Hill site, the project would have had more impact on the state's economy, not Rock Hill's. If you're talking about 100 to 150 employees who are going to be working in South Carolina rather than North Carolina, then their income becomes subject to the state tax in South Carolina. That isn't beneficial to the city, but it could help tax revenue in South Carolina. This is what I'm looking for. The project came to a halt in March of 2022. Panthers paused construction due to a financial dispute with Rock Hill. York County's last-second effort to sink more money into the deal failed, and in April, the team terminated its agreement with the city. In June, Real Estate Holdings LLC, so GTRE, which Tepper specifically created to build the team's Rock Hill site, filed for bankruptcy in court in Delaware. That was the project's final blow. Lawyers soon began seeking money allegedly owed from the unfinished project on behalf of their clients. Rock Hill wanted $20 million, York wanted $21 million. Dozens of contractors from companies working on the site wanted as much as $60 million. Court documents from the bankruptcy case shows the onslaught of legal maneuvers in Delaware and South Carolina. Courts cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees, but the high-profile verbal jabs had started long before the legal battle. In May of 2021, Hart asked York County for help with infrastructure costs. A letter from Hart stated that the expected money from Rock Hill hadn't come. The city had been expected to issue about $200 million in bonds by October 2020, according to the letter, and an extension into February of 2021 had already been missed. Unfortunately, the funding for the infrastructure remains at a crossroads, Hart wrote. City officials insisted they'd met all financial obligations required under the deal. City manager David Vaughan told the Herald in 2021 interview that there was a higher risk associated with the Panthers bond because under the agreement, Rock Hill was not required to provide any financial guarantee. The people who loan the money that would be used to build the roads and the infrastructure out there are doing it with the understanding that there's no guarantee behind the debt. They're taking whatever risk they decide is the appropriate amount, knowing that they're going to get repaid only from the development as it occurs on site. The team unearthed the same dispute when the site's construction was paused. Tepper Sports and Entertainment, which represents the NFL team, said in a statement in March that Rock Hill was unable to contribute the agreed upon investment to fund the construction. I will also say, from my friends and clients that were literally working the project, but we're working for the contractors, their understanding of the whole situation, even after it all unfolded, was that Rock Hill screwed everybody. Because they were supposed to guarantee the debt and then they didn't, which then caused the bond to fall through, which then caused the project to implode. Any implication by the Panthers that the city did not do its absolute and professional best is simply not true, said the mayor of the city that was being dragged through the mud. According to the Financial and Construction Administration Agreement between Rock Hill and GTRE, the city was expected to use its reasonable best efforts to issue $225 million in bonds by February 26, 2021. The agreement stated that the city's reasonable best efforts would not require Rock Hill to pledge, use, or contribute any funds, revenues, or assets to repay the bonds. This honestly smells like there were some, perhaps some budget attorneys involved in the original agreements. Team officials failed to provide key information, including development and financial plans for potential investors. Vaughn said the city was weeks away from issuing the bonds when the Panthers asked the city to stop and indicated that the team wanted to try additional things to get the debt issued. For weeks, Tepper refused to speak about the matter, but he made his message clear when the team terminated its agreement with Rock Hill over the project. And then it just exploded into lawsuits, and then the state attorney general decided not to touch it. The hearings had so many lawyers present that they couldn't fit all of them at the courtroom's tables. Many sat in the gallery. At one point, Roschenthaler displayed in court a check for millions of dollars the team had paid Mascaro, Barton, Mallow during construction. He demanded to know why the Panthers were paying contractors millions if the team had nothing to do with the project. Roschenthaler said the proposal was one of Tepper's companies would loan money to another would be the worst case of insider dealing in the history of American courts. Tepper's lawyers said no one else was willing to lend GTRE as much as Carfair to pay the administration of the bankruptcy case. Settlement, then no settlement. Lawyers for York County and Rock Hill went after Tepper and his companies. York County filed a lawsuit a week after GTRE filed for bankruptcy. Lawsuit described the project as Tepper's failed vanity project and said $21 million in road tax money had been misused, which was later misproven, or disproven, I should say. Interesting. So it's definitely very messy. But that's basically how number 2 out of 5 crashed and burned. The Panthers Rock Hill HQ never happened, was completely demolished in February of 2023. And now the city is looking at trying to redevelop the site in a partnership with was it Atrium or Novant Health? I forget which one. And they're still hunting for a developer to try to bring the project together. So that was $800 million that just absolutely evaporated. However, the number one and worst project of all cost something that you can't necessarily put a price on. So one of the biggest quote unquote mega projects that the city has ever attempted goes back to, it's really several different waves. So some of the historic black neighborhoods in the city were demolished during the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s in the name of urban renewal. And the Brooklyn was the largest black community in the Carolinas, a city within a city, if you will, and it had a long, rich history. However, during the 70s, during Charlotte's first urban renewal, they dozed 1,480 structures, displaced about 1,000 families, and closed about 216 Black-owned businesses, many of which never reopened. No homes were rebuilt for decades, and a lot of generational wealth was very, very tragically wiped out. Only 4 of the original buildings still stand, and the city says that it learned. And so actually, there is a fairly, I think, fairly cool. Let's see if we can pull up some images of this. I talked about it the other day, but it's Brooklyn Village is a new mixed income, mixed use, multi-$100 million project that will be on the site of the original Brooklyn neighborhood and is designed to help pay some homage or respect to the original neighborhood that was completely dozed and displaced. And some of the, let's see if we can get good images of this. 17-acre mixed-use development. So Brooklyn Village North is going to sit on a site that is approximately 11.3 acres. South is going to be on approximately 5.7 acres. Within the Mecklenburg County Aquatic Center in the middle. So this is what it originally looked like prior to it being dozed. Let me see if I can find the master plan, because I found some phenomenal images the other day, but I don't think it was on this site. Let's go back. Let's try this one. Site preparation for phase 1 is currently underway. Why are these such small images? They're so teeny tiny. I know I've seen some better ones. Let's see. Development projects, partners. This is from last year, 2025. So it's over a year old. People's Corporation is going to redevelop 17 acres for Brooklyn Village. People's pitches new planning and construction postponed until 2026, which is what we're currently at. 2 multifamily buildings won't begin until June of 2026. Contractual deadline is conditioned upon a favorable financing marketability climate. Brooklyn neighborhood is demolished through the federal urban renewal program back in the 60s and 70s, which displaced Black residents from valuable land near downtown districts. 216 businesses. So sad. Brooklyn Village. Where is the images of this? $24 million deal. Peachtree provided $23.8 million in acquisition and construction financing to Peoples for the first phase. In August of 2023, the lender filed for foreclosure on the deed of trust in early May, but voluntarily dismissed the action before the deed transfer on May 21st. So Wait, so did Peachtree, they lended against this, but who'd they sell? Who did Peebles? First and early representative. Peebles first phase. Lender filed for foreclosure. First and early representative declined to comment June 29th. So they sold it to First and Early? Let's see. Village site in Charlotte changes hands twice. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, we're gonna have to look at ads now, I guess. Integral part of Uptown Charlotte's Brooklyn Village redevelopment was sold to a local Charlotte group the second time in 2 months the property changed hands. First and Early Partners dropped $24.3 million to acquire 700 and 800 East Brooklyn Village Avenue from Peachtree Group, which acquired the deed from Peebles in May. Peachtree greenlit $23.8 million in funds to New York-based Peebles, according to an article by CBJ. First and Early not formally released plans for the site. Where are the? I've seen the mock-ups. This is one of them, but that's like 400 pixels. It's teeny tiny. Maybe if we try Brooklyn Village. Oh, this is what it used to look like. Photo credit Tom Walters. So this was before it got bulldozed back in the 70s. Here's the Observer. $683 million project. This is from 2022. This is also old. This is from 2016. Is this the most recent one, perhaps? I know this is the newest one that I've seen. I want to know where it's from though to see if we can find any more photos. So this, let's try. There we go. So this is the vision for this mixed-use community that will be on the site of the old Brooklyn neighborhood. It's supposed to feature mixed-income housing, as well as mixed-use commercial, and it'll have a small walkable, small walkable area, and also it's going to have a feature on the history of the neighborhood. It's kind of like a museum art exhibit type thing, which will be cool. So that one's honestly one of the longest running failures by Charlotte of projects that were boom and then bust and now are coming back to life in new ways. And so the largest bet that Charlotte's ever made actually was $19 billion. And it is going to be either the next boom or the next bust. We will find out. So this past fall, there was a 1-cent transit tax that was approved, bumping the Charlotte sales tax from 7.25% to 8.25% as of July 1st. So it just went into effect. And it's going to raise close to $20 billion over the next 30 years and will be the funding that we have for several new lines and things that are going to light rail lines and other transportation things. So I'm going to, let's see, explore Charlotte. I'm going to show you on the map real quick exactly what this means. So there's I didn't mean to click on that. So there's The red line, proposed stations, proposed route. So this is going to add connectivity from the center of Uptown Charlotte up into the burbs, all the way north through Huntersville, Cornelius, Davidson, and up to Mooresville. This will also help to substantially alleviate traffic on I-77 northbound. Then south, there's also going to be the Silver Line, which is down here. Yes, it is purple because that makes sense for the Silver Line. I don't know. And so that's going to add connectivity, most importantly, from the airport into, again, that central. This is the central Charlotte Gateway Station, which is like the central transportation hub for all of Charlotte. But the Silver Line is going to connect the airport to that central transportation hub, and then also down towards Matthews and beyond eventually, and also connect into Belmont to the west. There is also then Gold Line extensions. So if you don't know, the Gold Line already exists. However, there's this extension. So the gold is the existing. Let's see, there's the route for the proposed. Here's the route for the actual. So you can see there, the Gold Line is the streetcars that currently exist. The Gold Line extensions will then extend out further towards Albemarle Road along Central Avenue to the east, southeast, and go north along, what street is that? Beatty's Ford, yeah. And it goes through Uptown as well, also crossing at the Central Transportation Hub. So all of that's going to be funded through this $19 billion bet. And additionally, there will be, so some of these other projects, like for instance, the Brooklyn Village and Eastland Yards projects, are both going to have stops on this eventually, which is pretty cool. So it's going to, again, tremendously improve connectivity for the city. But, and this is the cool thing, it's not only rail, it's also going to fund expansions to bus service, and then also a lot of road improvements that we desperately need. So it's funded, it's happening. The actual timeline that we will see it happen on is a different question. History says that while this is all new and cool and destined to happen, we'll find out whether or not it actually does. But the funding is there, and even if some of the project's timelines slip, the corridors are already drawing incredible investment. One of the things, if you saw some of my old videos, like last summer, I was the very first person to make videos, and I spent a bunch of time piecing together custom maps of these routes. And since I made that video, we've already seen, particularly in some of these neighborhoods between the future Silver Line and Gold Line extensions, just disproportionate appreciation. Like prices have gone up a lot because, like, this is, a lot of people want to be, to have good access to a lot of transit. And then also there's going to be, just like in the early 2000s, the Blue Line. That I need to add that as well. Let me show you the existing Blue Line that a lot of people already commute using. Like, South End didn't really exist prior to that. It got completely redeveloped and just blew up when it went in the early 2000s. And so there's a lot of anticipation that all of these lines, but particularly in between the Silver Line and the Gold Line extensions, is going to see a lot of development over the next decade. So before we crown today's winners, though, how many of yesterday's flops did we end up skipping? There were many other less notable things that we didn't necessarily cover today. If you've got a few that are worth mentioning, drop them down in the comments. There was, let's see, Carolina's Place Mall in Pineville, NC Music Factory in Uptown, a bunch of condo busts after 2008. Let's see, there's a lot of things, but all in all, like, the city has grown so much. We have 157 people per day moving here. That is only speeding up as we speak. Prior to that last study, it was 113 people a day. So the next month, we're supposed to get the new reports of how many people are moving. I will be very curious. Keep tuning in, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will let you know. You'll be the first person to know just how many people are moving to Charlotte every single day. And we'll continue to share all the newest developments in Charlotte real estate so you can stay on top of it and see what opportunities are out there. If you want more detail, I made a pros and cons video over on the main channel. Go check that out. Or if you're really trying to figure out the best place to move, I put together the Charlotte Areas Quiz. I put so much time into this. You can scan the code or also links down below in the description. Answer a few quick questions. It'll give you a personal list of recommended different areas to research more deeply that match all of your criteria, including commute times and other stuff for whether it's commuting to work or uptown for shopping or events or anything else. It takes like 30 seconds, maybe a minute if you really want to read and take your time. But I spent many hours, and all of this is based off of over 400 consults that I did one-on-one with people that were making the move to Charlotte or making the move around Charlotte. So there's a lot of good data in there. So go take the quiz if you haven't already. And if you just got general questions or anything else, you can always text me or call or WhatsApp 980-449-3750. I appreciate you all very much. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm very excited to make the full in-depth version of this video very soon. If you got questions or other ideas for videos that you'd like me to make, drop them down in the comments as well. I read every single one, and I appreciate you. My name's Lucas Roller, your favorite realtor here in the beautiful Queen City. And as always, until next time, I will see you in the next live stream. Take care.